My parents bought my brother a Tesla, then said, "It wouldn't be fair to your sister if you don't help pay for repairs," after he crashed it drunk driving. I looked at them and said, "Absolutely not." But that was just the beginning of the most satisfying family justice story you'll ever hear. Let me explain how I went from being the family scapegoat to completely destroying their golden child fantasy in the most strategic way possible. I'm Marcus, 24, and I work as a senior financial analyst at a mid-sized investment firm making $78,000 annually. My younger brother Tristan, 21, has been the family golden child since birth. Despite being a complete disaster of a human being, the favoritism in our house isn't subtle. Since I turned 18, I've paid $400 monthly rent to live at home while Tristan lives completely free. I maintain a spotless credit score, have $23,000 in savings, and haven't asked my parents for money since college. Meanwhile, Tristan has never held a job, failed out of 2 different colleges, and treats our house like his personal crash pad. When I graduated with honors in finance, my parents gave me a $50 Applebee's gift card and told me to keep paying rent. When Tristan finally scraped together a 2.4 GPA after 6 years of college failures, they bought him a brand new Tesla Model 3 Performance. $60,000 worth of premium electric vehicle for someone who couldn't be trusted with a bicycle. From day one, Tristan treated that Tesla like his personal race car. He'd speed through residential neighborhoods, film dangerous TikTok videos while driving, and worst of all, drive drunk regularly. I warned my parents repeatedly that he was going to kill someone or himself. Their response was always the same. "You're just jealous. Let him enjoy his youth." 3 weeks ago, the inevitable happened. Tristan got wasted at the Rusty Nail, decided to drive home, and wrap that Tesla around an oak tree at 2 a.m. The front end was completely destroyed, both airbags deployed, windshield shattered. He was lucky to walk away with just a cut on his forehead and bruised ribs. My dad somehow convinced the homeowner not to call police and had the wrecked Tesla towed to our garage. The damage estimate came back at $18,000, and insurance wouldn't cover it because of the alcohol involved. That's when my parents called their family meeting. "The point is, repairs will cost $18,000, my dad announced like he was discussing the weather. "We think it's only fair that we all chip in as a family." I actually laughed out loud. "You want me to pay for repairs on a car I don't own, don't drive, and that was damaged because he chose to drive drunk?" "We're a family," my mom said. "You're the only one with significant savings right now." There it was. My carefully saved $23,000 wasn't my future freedom fund. It was their emergency bailout fund for Tristan's screw-ups. "Your mother and I can contribute $3,000, my dad continued. "Tristan has about $500 saved up. That leaves $14,500. The audacity was breathtaking. Tristan, who had never worked a day in his life, would contribute $500 while I'd cover $14,500 plus my regular $400 monthly rent. "It's not like you need a fancy apartment anyway," Tristan added without looking up from his phone. "You're always working." That's when I realized something crucial about my family dynamic. They'd position me as the responsible one who always sacrifices, and they'd become completely dependent on that identity. But what they didn't understand was that my role as the family problem solver had given me something they lacked: professional competence and strategic thinking. "I'm not giving you a single cent for this," I said calmly. "Tristan crashed the car because he was driving drunk. This is his problem, not mine." My parents looked genuinely shocked. In 24 years, I'd never refused to help clean up family messes. They were so used to me being the dutiful son who sacrificed for everyone else that they couldn't process this new version of me who understood boundaries. "After everything we've done for you," my mother began, but I cut her off. "What exactly have you done for me? Made me pay rent while he lives free? Given him a Tesla while I drive a 2009 Honda? Please elaborate on what you've done that justifies me paying for his drunk driving accident." My dad's face turned red. "You will contribute to fixing your brother's car. End of discussion." "No, I won't. End of my discussion." I walked out of that meeting knowing this wasn't over. In my family, no isn't considered a complete answer. It's just an invitation to find more creative ways to get what they want. For the next week, my parents deployed every manipulation tactic in their arsenal: guilt trips, threats, passive-aggressive comments about family loyalty. But I held firm. What they didn't realize was that my job as a financial analyst had taught me to recognize and resist exactly these kinds of pressure tactics. I deal with people trying to manipulate financial decisions all day long. Then came Friday night when I overheard my dad on the phone with the insurance company talking about comprehensive coverage and vandalism claims. Vandalism claims? That was new. Last I checked, drunk driving into a tree wasn't considered vandalism. Saturday morning, I woke up to shouting from the garage. I went downstairs to find the Tesla even more destroyed than before. Every window was shattered, massive dents covered the doors and hood, mirrors dangling by wires. It looked like someone had taken a baseball bat to it repeatedly. "You did this," Tristan accused me the moment he saw me. My dad held up my old high school baseball bat. "Then why was this in the bushes outside?" The setup was obvious and pathetic. Tristan had taken my bat, further destroyed his already wrecked Tesla, and planted the evidence to frame me. The insurance wouldn't pay for drunk driving, but vandalism? That might be covered. Plus, they'd get revenge on me for refusing to pay. "We've already called the insurance company," my dad said smugly. "They're sending an investigator Monday. We told them someone vandalized the car." This was the moment I realized my family had crossed from typical dysfunction into actual criminal behavior. They were committing insurance fraud and trying to frame me for it, but they'd made a crucial error. They assumed I was the same pushover I'd always been. They had no idea they were now dealing with someone with professional experience in financial investigations and fraud detection. "You're seriously going to frame me for this?" I asked, completely calm. "Who do you think they'll believe?" Tristan smirked. "The straight-A student with a bright future, or the jealous older brother who still lives at home?" I went back to my room and made 3 strategic phone calls. First, to my boss, requesting Monday off for a family emergency. Second, to my college roommate Derek, who's now a criminal defense attorney at a major law firm downtown. Third, to my colleague Jennifer, who used to work in insurance fraud investigations before joining our firm. By Sunday night, I had a complete strategic plan. My family thought they were playing chess while I was playing checkers. The truth was the exact opposite. The insurance investigator, Mac, arrived Monday morning at 9 a.m. sharp. My dad tried to send me to work, but I just stared at him until he backed down. Mac was professional and thorough, taking dozens of photos and examining the Tesla from every angle. When Mac interviewed me separately, I told him everything. The Tesla was already significantly damaged from Tristan's drunk driving accident. I explained about the crash, my parents covering it up, their demand that I pay $14,500 in repairs, and how the vandalism mysteriously occurred right after I refused. "Check the airbags," I told him. "They've already been deployed from the initial crash. Look at the front-end damage versus the new damage. It's clearly from 2 different incidents." Mac took extensive notes, and I could see he was processing the inconsistencies in my family's story. But I had one more piece of information that would make this case airtight. "The neighbors 2 doors down installed a new security system last month," I mentioned casually. "The camera has a wide-angle view of most of the street." After Mac left, my parents fell apart. They knew I hadn't stuck to their script, and they were panicking. But they still thought they could control the situation through family pressure and manipulation. Wednesday afternoon, I got a text from Mac asking to meet privately. At Starbucks, he showed me security footage that was so clear and damning, it was almost funny. There was Tristan taking my baseball bat from my car trunk and methodically destroying his own Tesla. "I've been doing this job for 15 years, Mac said, shaking his head. "This is one of the dumbest frame jobs I've ever seen." The insurance company was denying the claim and referring the case to their fraud department. Mac had also contacted local police, who wanted to speak with both me and Tristan. A police officer arrived at the coffee shop 10 minutes later. Officer Rivera was professional and direct. She showed me the footage, took my statement, and asked if I wanted to press charges against Tristan for attempting to frame me. I thought about it for exactly 3 seconds. Yes, Tristan was my brother, but he was also someone who had deliberately tried to frame me for a crime to cover up his own mistakes. He would have happily destroyed my reputation, my job prospects, and potentially my freedom to protect himself from the consequences of his drunk driving. Yes, I told Officer Rivera. I want to press charges. She nodded and made notes. We'll also be investigating the original DUI incident that was never properly reported. I drove home to grab some clothes before giving my formal statement at the police station. A police cruiser was already parked outside our house. When I walked inside, it was absolute chaos. My mom was crying and pacing. My dad was frantically making phone calls about misunderstandings and family matters, and Tristan was sitting on the couch looking pale and scared for the first time in his life. "What have you done?" my mom demanded when she saw me. "The police are saying Tristan could be charged with fraud." "I didn't do anything," I replied calmly. "Tristan did this to himself when he decided to frame me for vandalizing his car." My dad hung up his phone and stormed over. "This is ridiculous. We can handle this as a family. You need to call them and drop the charges right now." "No," I said simply. "I'm done covering for him. I'm done being the family scapegoat." The meltdown that followed was spectacular. My parents tried everything: threats, bribes, guilt trips, promises to help with apartment costs if I just made this all go away. Tristan even attempted an apology, but it came across as sorry I got caught rather than genuine remorse. I went upstairs and packed a duffel bag. I wasn't coming back to this house. When I came back downstairs with my bag, my parents looked alarmed. "I'm going to the police station to give my statement, and then I'm staying with a friend," I announced. "You can't leave," my mom wailed. "We need to handle this as a family." "We stopped being a functional family a long time ago," I replied. "Maybe we never were." My dad stepped in front of the door, blocking my exit. "If you walk out that door and go through with this, don't bother coming back. You'll no longer be welcome in this house." I looked him straight in the eye. "I'm not destroying this family, Dad. I'm refusing to let this family destroy me anymore. And if you're really willing to disown me for that, I'm fine with it." I stepped around him and walked out. He called after me something about ungrateful children and family loyalty, but I didn't look back. At the police station, I gave a complete formal statement. Officer Rivera explained that Tristan would be charged with filing false police reports, attempted insurance fraud, and potentially additional charges related to the original DUI that was never properly reported. "This might get messy," she warned. "Family cases often do. Are you sure you want to proceed?" "I'm sure," I said without hesitation. My friend Chris had a room ready for me and didn't ask questions. For the first time in years, I felt like I was finally standing up for myself. As I turned off my phone to stop the flood of calls and texts from my family, I realized something important. This was what actual family support was supposed to feel like. Not manipulation, not guilt, not constant demands for sacrifice, but genuine unconditional support. Over the next 6 months, everything unfolded exactly as I'd strategically planned. The evidence against Tristan was overwhelming. Security footage, blood alcohol levels from the hospital that night, and the insurance investigation report. He pleaded guilty to all charges and received 6 months in county jail, 3 years probation, massive fines, and lost his license for 5 years. My parents weren't criminally charged, but they got hit with hefty fines for their role in the insurance fraud attempt. Between legal fees, fines, and still owing payments on a total Tesla, they went from comfortable middle class to basically broke. Meanwhile, I got promoted at work. Amazing what you can accomplish when you're not constantly dealing with family drama. I also started taking night classes for my MBA, and I found a great one-bedroom apartment where nobody expects me to fix their problems. Last month, the predictable happened. The texts and calls started rolling in again. First from my mom with the classic guilt approach. "We're about to lose the house. After all we've done for you, how can you abandon us now?" Then my dad with his usual intimidation and tactics. "You owe this family, man up and help us out." Even Tristan called from jail, apologizing and saying prison had changed him before asking for commissary money. The real comedy came last week when my parents showed up at my apartment unannounced. They looked pathetic standing at my door with their whole sob story prepared. They were selling the house but needed money to transition. Dad had lost his job after the scandal became public. Mom's anxiety was acting up. Wouldn't I please help my family in their time of need? I listened to their entire performance without interrupting, watching them spin their tale of woe with all the dramatic flair they could muster. When they finally finished, I just stared at them for a solid 10 seconds before asking, "Sorry, I must have missed something in your presentation. Could you remind me which part of trying to frame me for insurance fraud entitles you to my financial support?" My mom's face crumpled like she'd been slapped. My dad stood there speechless. For once in their lives, they had no script ready. The roles were completely reversed. They were at my door, on my terms, and I held all the cards. I told them I'd think about it and closed the door. I did think about it for exactly 5 seconds before sending a text. "The answer is no. Don't contact me again." Dad replied with threats, Mom with emotional manipulation, Tristan with promises to change. I blocked all their numbers. 6 months later, I'm thriving in ways I never imagined possible. My promotion came with a $12,000 salary increase. My MBA program is going excellently, and I'm on track for another promotion next year. I'm dating someone amazing who actually values my opinion and treats me with respect. Tristan got out of jail last month and moved back in with our parents, who are now renting a small 2-bedroom apartment across town. He's working at a fast food place and taking public transportation. The golden child, who once owned a $60,000 Tesla, now makes minimum wage and rides the bus. My parents lost their house, their comfortable lifestyle, and their golden child fantasy, all in one devastating series of consequences. Dad's new job pays about 40% of what he used to make, and Mom had to go back to work for the first time in 15 years. But here's the most satisfying part. They finally understand that their years of treating me like a second-class citizen while worshiping Tristan's mediocrity had consequences they never saw coming. The responsible son they took for granted was actually the strategic thinker who could have helped them avoid this entire disaster if they had treated him with basic respect. Instead, they chose to protect their golden child through criminal fraud and tried to frame their reliable son to cover up their mistakes. Now, they're living with the long-term consequences of that choice. Financial ruin, damaged reputations, and the loss of the one family member who actually had his life together. Sometimes the most satisfying revenge isn't getting even. It's being so strategically superior to your enemies that they destroy themselves while trying to destroy you, and you get to watch from a safe distance while building an amazing life they'll never be part of again.